It probably feels like the nightmare will never end. As people in Southern California face a sixth straight day of deadly wildfires, crews are still at it, with winds expected to intensify again this week. At least 24 people have lost their lives. The Palisades fire still largely uncontained, and it's already the most destructive fire in LA County history. One local official says more than 5,000 homes have been wiped out in the Palisades fire alone, thousands losing everything in a matter of hours, including one family who lost their daughter's ashes. "We had a daughter 15 years ago, should be 15. And she passed away when she was 1, and her ashes were in our home. And, I mean, they are gone. Like every memory, every piece of physical evidence of her life is just gone. And that hurt." But critical fire conditions are flaring up once again, with the National Weather Service warning of a particularly dangerous situation by midweek, all of this threatening to fuel the major fires, which have already burned more than 40,000 acres in just under a week. That is an area bigger than the size of Paris, France. California Governor Gavin Newsom says fire crews are moving into hotspots in advance. Some are up here in Mandeville Canyon, which was the site in the last 2 nights of tremendous investment of resources. Firefighters are working the line. A lot of those assets are still here, not only in anticipation of potential flare-ups in the Palisades fire, but also pre-positioned as they are pre-positioned in many counties throughout the state of California because of the upcoming winds. We're expecting Monday, peaking Monday night. Joining me now to discuss the latest is Brian Rice, the president of the California Professional Firefighters. Brian, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for being with us. We did hear from the governor overnight about pre-positioning fire crews for more potential flare-ups. What do you think is the scale of the risk of that here? I think that for the next couple of days, and the governor said it through Wednesday, there's a pretty large spread of a red flag warning. I think the threat is very real and that the state of California is moving resources into I can't say match that threat, but in anticipation of that threat. The threat's real. So, sir, at this point, what do you think are the biggest risks from these winds? Which neighborhoods do you think are potentially more at risk than others? And what does that mean for your crews? Well, right now, it looks like the big threats are in the Brentwood area and the Santa Monica area. The governor mentioned Mandeville Canyon and some of these areas on the northern end of the Palisades fire. You're seeing areas that haven't had a fire in some cases, up to 40 years, so there's a much higher fuel load. They know they are getting resources in there. But, as you said, Casey, the weather matters here. It's still dry. The humidity levels are coming up a little bit, but they probably aren't beginning to see the type of overnight recovery in the dew point and humidity levels that they want to see. It's not single-digit like it was when this fire started, but right now, it all matters. It's the neighborhoods in front of the flame front, and some of the things that add to that. You know, islands of areas in the burn that haven't burned, they were saved. The fire moved around them, but those areas pose a threat. You don't want to see a start in those areas that could fuel a flame front. So, sir, what are you hearing from firefighters on the ground about what they may need here? Are they running into any issues? Obviously, there have already been investigations called for, and apparently launched, into why the hydrants ran dry in the Palisades, for example. Are there any other issues like that you're hearing from crews? What are they telling you about how residents can best help them right now? Well, some of the things I spoke about last night included a crew leader on a youth soccer team. Their morale is very, very high. They are starting to roll into getting some rest periods. But the reason their morale is high is because there's a lot of interaction with the community. As firefighters rotate off the line, they'll have those connections in some areas. As they move towards the fire line, they connect with citizens, and those interactions mean everything. You hear their stories. A person might ask for help or want to know what you saw in their area. People are tired. There'll be time for exhaustion, but for now, they keep going. There will be a time to get rest when the wind stops blowing and we see our containment numbers go up. I'm really glad to hear that you are hearing that the morale is high because of how much support they are getting from the community. That is at least something positive to look to in what is obviously an incredibly difficult and continuing to be a very dangerous situation. Brian Rice, we've been so grateful to have you. Thank you so much for being here. The last thing residents in and around Los Angeles want to hear this morning. Overnight, officials raised the fire threat level to the highest level, extremely critical in some places. That is a 3 out of 3 in terms of danger, and it could stay that way for days. Shortly, the wind speeds could be near hurricane-level gusts. Again, the fear is that the conditions will soon become explosive. Just moments ago, a fire battalion chief shared this update, with the red flag warning imminent. Every one of our fires that's currently active, the containment lines that are not fully contained yet are still a challenge. It's possible that wind blowing could worsen the situation. More than 100,000 people are in the evacuation zones this morning. The death toll stands at 24, but that number could rise. There are dozens of people said to be missing. Let's get right to Malibu. CNN's Stephanie Elam is there. Stephanie, we can see you standing in front of just the destruction. So much destruction. And you were talking about those winds, John. They are really starting to kick up now. I don't know if you can tell as well. Yeah, I guess this flag is flapping up here so you can see this. It is really windy. And this is part of the concern because right now it is cooler. It is a little chilly out here, and that usually happens during wildfires where we see the flames kind of simmer down into the earth and we don't really see them. But then as daylight comes, things start to heat up, and we start to see these blazes come back. But this is the overall effect of what we've been seeing here. Take a look at this. This was an inn right on the Pacific Coast Highway, just decimated by the blaze, the Palisades fire coming through here. And think about it. The Palisades fire has burned through more than 23,000 acres. The Eaton fire, over on the east side, has burned through 14,000 acres. And according to data released by CAL FIRE, they are saying that the amount of land burned between the Eaton fire, the Palisades fire, and other fires is more than the total area of Paris, larger than that. I mean, just phenomenal numbers to try to compute and digest, illustrating just how large these fires are. The other concern, though, with these winds is that while they have achieved some containment for some of these fires and knocked some of them down, the issue is that these winds could cause those containment numbers to drop again. Many people are anxious to get back into their homes if they are in the evacuation areas. But listen to this explanation from a CAL FIRE official about why they don't want people returning prematurely. Part of the reason we're keeping evacuation orders in place is not only because of fire risk, but also because we have down power lines, which are potentially live, unknown statuses of gas lines, and every bit of that ash out there is toxic, with petroleum products from the houses that burned. So it is an unsafe place for families to be. That's very true. Even standing here near this inn, although I'm not inside it, I can smell that metallic odor you often notice after wildfires, which goes through not just brush and trees, but also buildings like this. That's part of the concern, along with the ongoing wind warnings. Officials are saying that if things go as they hope in the next couple of days, the earliest we may see people returning to their homes would be Thursday. John, this has been going on for so long now, with days more to come. It's got to be overwhelming for so many people who've lost their homes. Stephanie Elam, thank you so much for being there. We appreciate it.